I never expected my December to start with a box on my doorstep, especially one wrapped in red foil paper and tied with a glossy white bow that looked like something from those perfect Christmas catalog pictures. I stood there staring at it for a good minute, feeling the winter air bite my cheeks, wondering if someone had dropped it at the wrong house. It wasn't my birthday, and nobody in my family was the type to leave surprises. But there it was, practically glowing in the pale morning light, as if it wanted me specifically to notice it. My name was written on the tag, neat handwriting, too elegant to be my mom's. It said nothing else. No sender. No message. Just my name. I brought it inside, half nervous and half curious, because that's how everything in my life seems to start. Confusion wrapped in curiosity, like I'm always walking into something I don't fully understand. I put the box on the dining table, staring at it while my breath settled. The bow was tied so perfectly, I almost didn't want to mess it up. It felt wrong to ruin something that neat. But eventually curiosity won, and I tugged gently on the ribbon. It came loose in one smooth stroke, like it had been waiting for that. Inside was an even stranger sight. Soft pastel tissue paper folded around something light and delicate. I peeled it open and saw a flash of red fabric, silky and shining. For a second, I thought it was a scarf, but when I lifted it fully, my heart skipped. It was a dress. And not just any dress. It was the kind you'd see on the cover of a magazine for a Christmas party theme, bright red, fitted at the top, flaring out softly at the bottom, with a tiny bow stitched at the center of the neckline. It looked small, definitely not sized for someone like me, a guy who barely knew how to match jeans with a hoodie. I didn't even know who would send something like this. I didn't have sisters. I didn't have female cousins who played jokes. And none of my friends would ever go this far. I felt my face warm, embarrassed even though nobody was there to see me. Why would someone send me this? Why Christmas of all times? And why did it feel strangely familiar, like the fabric was something I had seen once before in a place I couldn't remember clearly? I found a small envelope inside the box, almost hidden between the folds. When I opened it, a single sentence was written inside, "For the person you're becoming this season." No signature. No clue. Just that one cryptic line. Becoming? I had no idea what that meant. I placed the dress back carefully and closed the box, trying not to think too much about it. But for the rest of the day, my mind kept drifting back to that sentence, those words looping quietly like a soft whisper in the back of my head. Later that night, I found myself unable to sleep. Snowflakes were drifting past my bedroom window, catching the glow of the streetlights. I kept imagining the box downstairs, glowing red in the dark, waiting for me to figure out why it had shown up. I got out of bed, walked down silently, and stood over it again. I don't know why I opened it a second time. Maybe I expected something to make more sense the second time around. Maybe I wanted to feel that silky fabric again, just to prove to myself that it was real. When I lifted the dress again, the fabric slid between my fingers so softly that it sent a strange shiver through me. Not fear, something gentler, something curious. The dress didn't look as small as before. Maybe I had just misjudged it the first time. Holding it up, I noticed it could probably fit if I really tried. But why would I even think about trying it? I wasn't the type of person who did things like that. I wasn't brave, or bold, or confident. I was average in every possible way. But that weird feeling, that whisper of becoming, kept nudging at me. I told myself it was just to see how it looked. Just curiosity. Just one moment. That's all. Nothing serious. Nothing meaningful. So I slipped out of my hoodie, pulled the dress over my head, and let it fall into place. When the fabric settled against my body, I felt something shift, quietly, like a snowflake landing on the surface of still water. It didn't fit perfectly, but it fit enough. Enough to see where it hugged. Enough to feel the way it moved. Enough to sense that this was not a mistake. I walked slowly to the mirror in the hallway. I didn't recognize myself at first. Not because I looked like someone else, but because something in my expression had changed. There was a softness I didn't know I could have, a gentleness in the way I stood, as if the dress wasn't just clothing but a quiet permission to see a part of myself I'd never allowed to surface. I didn't look ridiculous. I didn't look wrong. I looked like someone discovering a version of themselves they didn't know existed until that moment. But the moment didn't last long, because suddenly I heard footsteps upstairs. Slow, hesitant. Someone else was awake. My heart started racing as I panicked, pulling the dress off as quickly and quietly as I could. I stuffed it back into the box and shoved the box behind the couch before anyone could come down. The footsteps stopped. Silence. I held my breath. Then the footsteps moved away, fading slowly. I sat on the floor in the dark, breathing hard, my hands shaking slightly. I didn't know if I was scared of being caught or scared of what I had just felt. Maybe both. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. I didn't even move from that spot for a long time. I just sat there thinking about that strange line in the envelope and the way I looked in the mirror, the softness in my reflection that felt like a secret I wasn't ready to understand. And that was only the beginning. The next morning felt strange, like the world had shifted a little during the night while I wasn't looking. I kept glancing toward the couch where the box was hidden, half expecting it to glow or hum or do something impossible. Instead, it sat silently, waiting for me in the way only secrets wait. I tried acting normal around the house, moving through my morning routine as if nothing had changed, brushing my teeth, making tea, pretending I wasn't distracted. But it was all wrong. Everything felt too loud. The spoon clinking against a mug felt too sharp. The hum of the heater felt too constant. Even the winter sunlight felt like it was watching me. Around noon, my mom left for work, bundling herself into her coat and rushing out the door, calling a reminder behind her about some groceries she needed later. As soon as I heard the door click shut, the house became silent in a way that felt deliberate, like the walls themselves wanted to hear what I would do next. I picked up the box again, setting it gently on the table this time. It felt like holding something alive. Something waiting. I opened it, half scared of my own heartbeat. The dress lay inside exactly as I had folded it, neat and careful, almost like it had been sleeping. But there was something else this time, something I was sure hadn't been there before. A small rectangular package wrapped in plain white paper sat tucked beneath the dress. My breath tightened as I pulled it out. The paper opened easily, revealing a set of red hair clips shaped like tiny bows, glossy and bright and oddly adorable. They looked like something someone very gentle would wear. Someone soft, someone cheerful.
Someone not me.
The moment I touched them, I felt that same strange, quiet shiver run through me. It was like the items in the box weren't random gifts, but pieces of something I hadn't put together yet. A costume. A message.
A guide.
I knew I shouldn't try the dress again. I knew I shouldn't even be holding the clips. But some things don't wait for permission. Some things unfold on their own, especially when they've already started. I found myself going to the hallway mirror again, the same place where I had seen that unfamiliar softness the night before. I slipped the dress over my head once more, slower this time, more aware of the way the fabric slid along my skin. It felt different today, lighter, almost comforting, as if it welcomed me. I clipped one of the tiny bow clips into my hair, feeling ridiculous and brave at the same time. My reflection came into focus, and something unexpected stirred in my chest. Not fear, not embarrassment, something warm, something like recognition. But before I could fully understand it, my phone buzzed loudly in my pocket. I almost jumped. The dress rustled as I reached for it. A message from my cousin Mira flashed across the screen. Coming over. Need to borrow something. Are you home? My stomach dropped so fast I felt dizzy. Mira wasn't the type to give warnings before showing up. She often said things like coming over when she was already halfway there. And she had a spare key. I shoved everything back into the box. Dress, clips, tissue, paper, barely thinking, my hands moving too fast to be careful. I sprinted to my room, tossed on my hoodie and jeans, and tried to steady my breathing. A moment later the front door opened without a knock. I heard Myra's familiar voice calling my name. I stepped out pretending everything was normal, but my heartbeat was still racing. Mira walked in carrying a bag, her hair tied up in a messy bun, her usual confident energy filling the room like sunshine. She froze for a moment, staring at me too closely, like she sensed something unusual in the air. I forced a laugh, asking what she needed, hoping my voice didn't shake. She said she needed some help with a project and started explaining it casually, but her eyes kept wandering around the room. Then she looked at the table. At the slight corner of red foil paper peeking out from where I had pushed the box aside too quickly. My entire body stiffened. She walked toward it without hesitation. "What's this?" she asked, reaching for the box before I could stop her. My heart dropped into my stomach. I rushed forward, trying to grab it, but she lifted the lid in one quick motion. The dress lay inside, the bow clips resting on top. The room froze. Mira blinked.
Once. Twice.
Then she lifted her eyes to me. At first, I expected judgment, laughter, shock, anything sharp or painful. But instead her expression softened in a way I didn't expect. "Is this yours?" she asked quietly. My mouth opened, but no words came out. I didn't know what to say, how to explain something I didn't even understand myself. The silence stretched, heavy and fragile. Finally, she closed the lid gently and put her hand on my shoulder. "You can tell me," she said, her voice calm and steady. "I won't freak out." Something in her tone felt grounding, safe. And the truth slipped out before I could stop it. "I didn't buy it," I said. "Someone sent it. I don't know who." I told her about the box, the note, the dress, the way it fit when I tried it on the first time. I didn't tell her how it made me feel, how strange and comforting the reflection had been. Some secrets were too new to share. She listened carefully, her eyebrows drawn slightly, as if she was connecting things in her mind. When I finished, she took a slow breath. "Do you want to put it on now?" she asked. My heart stumbled.
What?
"No, I don't know. Why would I?" She cut me off with a gentle smile. "You're shaking. That usually means you care about something." I looked down at my hands. I hadn't noticed how unsteady they were. She opened the box, lifting the dress with surprising care. "It's Christmas season," she said. "People do weird things this time of year. Maybe this isn't something to be scared of." Her words felt too calm, too knowing. I looked different in it, I admitted quietly. It was the closest I could get to the truth. "Different how?" she asked. I swallowed, feeling the weight of the question. "Like someone I'm supposed to see." Mira didn't laugh. She didn't even smile. She simply nodded, as if that made perfect sense. "Then let's see her again," she said softly. The word her echoed in my head like a soft bell. I didn't correct her. I didn't know if I wanted to. She stood there waiting, holding the dress gently toward me, her expression calm, patient, almost protective. I felt a pull inside me, quiet but steady, and I realized something I hadn't the night before. This wasn't just curiosity. This wasn't just a strange gift. This felt like a beginning. A slow, careful beginning of something I didn't have the words for yet. And Mira, somehow, was the first person who understood that without needing an explanation. For a moment, I hesitated, staring at the dress in her hands. But the longer I looked, the less scared I felt. The more it felt like stepping into something I'd already started becoming. I don't know what shifted inside me when Mira held out the dress again, but suddenly the fear that had been gripping my chest loosened, replaced by something quieter, something almost steady. Maybe it was the way she looked at me, not with judgment or shock, but with a kind of gentle certainty, as if she already knew the answer to a question I hadn't been brave enough to ask myself. I reached for the dress, my fingers brushing the soft fabric. It felt warm, even though it had been sitting untouched. Warm like it belonged in my hands. Warm like it belonged on me. Mira stepped back to give me space, but she didn't leave the room. Instead, she stood nearby, arms loosely crossed, watching with the sort of patience only someone who truly cares can manage. I slipped into the hallway bathroom and locked the door. For a moment, I leaned against it, breathing deeply, trying to steady the fluttering inside my chest. I pulled off my hoodie, my shirt, my jeans, laying them neatly on the counter like I was shedding not just clothes, but the idea of who I had been up until this moment. When I lifted the dress over my head and let it fall into place, the world seemed to go quiet. The fabric settled against me perfectly this time, smoothing itself as if it had been tailored for me specifically. I looked in the mirror, expecting to feel ridiculous or ashamed or confused. But what I saw wasn't any of those things. It was me, but softer, clearer, almost like someone had turned the focus dial on a blurry picture and brought something hidden into sharp detail. My hair was messy, but even that didn't look wrong. I reached for one of the little bow clips Mira had carefully placed on the counter. My hand trembled slightly as I pushed my bangs aside and slid the clip into place. The bow sat neatly above my temple, red and shiny. The moment it clicked in, something inside me settled. A quiet certainty. A soft recognition. I don't know how long I stared at my reflection, but Myra's gentle knock broke the silence. "Can I come in?" she asked softly. I hesitated only a second before unlocking the door. She stepped inside, her eyes widening, not with shock, but with that same warm understanding she'd had earlier. "There you are," she said quietly. The words hit harder than I expected. I didn't know if she meant it literally or in some deeper way, but either way it made my throat tighten. She adjusted the bow clip slightly, her fingers gentle. "You look right," she said. Like this wasn't an accident. I swallowed hard, not trusting my voice. Mira walked behind me, brushing my hair with her fingers, pulling it back lightly to see how different styles changed the shape of my face. She wasn't teasing, wasn't treating it like a joke or costume. She was studying me with care, like this was a version of me she wanted to understand better. "Do you want to see something?" she asked suddenly. I nodded without thinking. She reached into her bag and pulled out a small makeup pouch. My eyes widened. "Mira, no. Relax," she said gently. "Nothing dramatic. Just a little softness. To match what's already there." The way she said already there made something warm bloom in my chest. She sat me on the edge of the bathtub, her movements calm and careful. She dabbed a bit of tinted balm on my lips, something light and natural that only made them look a shade brighter. She brushed a touch of color onto my cheeks, so subtle I almost thought it wouldn't show, until it did, soft, warm, alive. Then she stepped back. "Look," she said. I faced the mirror again, and the breath left my lungs. It wasn't a new person. It was me. But it was a version of me that felt true in a way I couldn't explain. A version I had never allowed myself to imagine. Mira smiled. "Do you like her?" Her. The word echoed again, not sharp this time, but gentle, like a ribbon tied softly around my name. I didn't answer with words. My expression was enough. Mira reached out, squeezing my shoulder. "Then let's help her come out more often," she whispered. The moment felt too fragile, too important to break with loud emotions. I nodded quietly. She helped me out of the dress carefully, folding it with respect, like it was more than fabric. It felt strange putting my regular clothes back on afterward, like stepping into something too heavy, too dull, after wearing something that had made my reflection feel alive. We hid the dress back in its box, placing it gently under my bed. Mira stayed a while longer, chatting about random things, but her eyes kept drifting to me as if she were watching pieces of a puzzle come together. When she finally left, she hugged me tighter than usual. "If you ever want help," she said softly at my door, "just ask. You're not alone in this, whatever this becomes." After she was gone, I sat on the floor of my room, staring at the box under my bed. I could still feel the dress against my skin, still feel the weight of the bow clip in my hair, even though it wasn't there anymore. I kept replaying that moment in the mirror, the strange rightness of it. That night, sleep didn't come easily. My thoughts tangled and untangled themselves over and over. Who sent the box? How did they know what it would stir in me? Why did everything feel like it was unfolding with uncanny precision? And why did I feel less afraid now, even though nothing made sense? But the questions didn't frighten me like before. Instead, they pulled me forward, like a string tied around my wrist, leading me towards something I couldn't see yet. When I finally drifted into sleep, I dreamed of snowflakes drifting down, each one shaped like a tiny red bow. And in the dream, I walked through them without fear, feeling them land softly on my skin, welcoming me into something new. Something becoming. Something waiting. And when I woke up the next morning, I felt that same pull again, quiet, patient, undeniable, guiding me a little closer to the person I had seen in the mirror. Over the next few days, everything in my life felt slightly tilted, as if the world had shifted just a few degrees, and only I could feel it. I went to school, pretended to focus, nodded when people spoke to me, but my mind kept drifting back to the box under my bed. Every night, I found myself lying awake, staring at the ceiling, feeling that quiet pull again and again. It wasn't loud. It wasn't urgent. It was steady, gentle, like a soft hand guiding me towards something I didn't yet have the words for. Mira checked on me constantly, texting little things. How are you feeling today? Are you thinking about the dress again? And the strangest one, has anything new shown up? That last question made my stomach twist every time, because I didn't know if she was asking as a joke or if she suspected something I didn't. Nothing new had arrived. The doorstep had remained empty. But a part of me kept expecting another gift, another sign, another strange message telling me what direction I was supposed to follow next. It was 2 days before Christmas, when something finally happened. I had been sitting at my desk, pretending to work on an assignment, when I felt something unusual beneath my foot. A soft bump against the floorboards. At first, I thought it was just the corner of a misplaced notebook or maybe a sock I had kicked under the bed. But when I bent down to pull it out, my breath froze. It was another package.
Small.
Wrapped in the same clean white paper as the bow clips. I hadn't heard anyone come in. I hadn't heard a knock. The door had been locked. Yet there it was, sitting under my bed like it had been waiting quietly for me to notice. My hands trembled as I unwrapped it. Inside was a pair of red tights, folded perfectly. The fabric was smooth, soft, and unexpectedly warm. There was a tiny note tucked beneath them. Same handwriting. Same neat style. For the warmth you're growing into. I stared at the message for a long time, feeling a strange mix of fear and relief. Someone knew. Someone was watching. Someone understood something I hadn't even been able to say out loud. And instead of feeling trapped, I felt guided. I didn't try them on immediately. I didn't even touch them again for a few minutes. I needed to breathe, to collect myself enough to understand whether this was something I truly wanted or something I was just too scared to define. But the moment I touched the fabric again, the answer became clear. I wanted to know. I needed to know. I locked my door, made sure the windows were shut, and pulled the tights gently over my legs. They slid on smoothly, hugging softly around my skin, shaping everything with a quiet, gentle firmness. The warmth was immediate, spreading upward like a soft glow under my skin. When I stood up, I felt lighter, not physically but emotionally, as if some invisible weight had slipped off my shoulders. Looking at myself in the mirror, with only the tights on, was strangely grounding. I didn't feel silly. I didn't feel wrong. I felt like something inside me was aligning, connecting, becoming clearer. The red color, bright and warm, made my legs look long and delicate. I touched my reflection without fully understanding why the sight felt so important. I should have felt embarrassed, but instead, it felt like relief. A quiet knock on my door made me jump. "Hey," Myra's voice came through muffled. "Can I come in?" My heart nearly stopped. I scrambled, trying to hide the tights, but they were already on me, already hugging so tightly there was no easy way out. Panic surged through me. I threw on my longest hoodie, the one that went past my hips, hoping it would cover enough. I cracked the door open. Mira looked at me carefully, her eyes narrowing, not suspiciously, but thoughtfully. "You're different today," she said softly. I swallowed hard. "Different how?" She tilted her head. "Like you're holding something in." Her words hit too close. I stepped aside to let her in, trying not to move too much. She sat on the bed, looking around out of habit, then glanced toward the floor.
"What's that?" she asked.
The white wrapping paper sat crumpled near the desk. I hadn't had time to hide it. My stomach dropped. It showed up. Myra's eyes widened slightly, but not in disbelief. More like the last piece of a puzzle had clicked into place. "Another gift," she said quietly. What was inside? I hesitated. Lying now didn't feel right. I pointed down at my legs. cheeks warming. Myra's expression softened immediately. "Can I see?" she asked gently. I didn't know why I nodded, but I did. Slowly, I lifted the hem of my hoodie, revealing the bright red tights. Myra blinked once, then smiled. Not a teasing smile, not amused, but warm and real.
"They look good," she said.
Too good for someone who pretends this is just confusion. I felt my chest tighten. "I don't know what this is." "It's okay not to know," she said. "Knowing comes later." She reached out, touching the fabric lightly. "They fit you," she whispered, like she had discovered something important. "And you look happy." I didn't answer. My reflection from earlier replayed in my mind, that moment when I felt aligned, whole. Myra stood up suddenly. "You should wear the dress with them." My breath caught.
"Now."
She nodded. "You're always waiting for the right moment. But maybe the right moment is the one you make." My hands shook slightly, but I didn't stop her when she pulled the box from under the bed. She opened it gently, like it was sacred. The red dress looked brighter against the warm tights, like the pieces were meant to be together. I slipped into the dress again, feeling the fabric glide over the tights with a soft whisper. Myra helped zip it up, her hand steady. Then she placed one of the bow clips into my hair again, stepping back slowly, like an artist finishing a painting. "Look," she whispered. I turned to the mirror, and the breath left my lungs. This wasn't confusion anymore. This wasn't a silly moment or a phase or an accident. This was me, clearer, softer, fuller. Someone standing between who I had been and who I was slowly becoming. Myra's voice came from behind me, quiet but sure. "You know, every Christmas story is about someone discovering a part of themselves they were too afraid to see before." I swallowed hard. "And this, she said, "is yours." I didn't cry, but the warmth in my chest grew so deep I thought it might spill over. For the first time, I didn't feel like I was pretending. For the first time, I didn't feel afraid of what I saw. For the first time, the reflection looked like someone who could exist beyond a single quiet moment. And I wasn't ready for how deeply that realization settled inside me, preparing me for what would come next. The days leading up to Christmas felt like they were moving in soft, slow motion, as if time itself didn't want to rush what was happening to me. Wearing the dress and tights with Myra, there had changed something inside me, something small but undeniable, like a spark catching onto a dry leaf. Suddenly, everything around me felt different. The way I walked, the way I sat, the way I looked at myself in every passing reflection. I used to avoid mirrors, barely glancing at them unless absolutely necessary. Now I found myself studying my face, looking for traces of the person I had seen while wearing the dress. Sometimes I thought I could see her, peeking through even when I wasn't dressed up. A softness around my jaw, a gentleness in my eyes, something shifting quietly beneath the surface. Myra kept coming over, always pretending she was checking on schoolwork or borrowing something, but both of us knew why she was really there. She'd sit on the floor with me, brushing my hair with her fingers, asking me how it felt to see myself in that new way. Sometimes I answered. Sometimes I didn't have the words. She didn't push. But the strangest part of everything was Amira. It was the silence of the house. My mom was working long holiday shifts, gone from morning until late night, leaving me alone with too many questions and too much time to think, or feel, or change. Christmas Eve arrived with heavy snowfall. Thick flakes drifted past my window, landing softly on the street outside, turning everything into a glowing white blanket under the street lamps. The world felt quiet, expectant, waiting for something. That evening, while I was brushing my hair in the bathroom, I heard a faint sound from my room. Not loud, not threatening, just the smallest rustle, like a piece of fabric being moved. When I stepped inside, I saw the box on my bed. Not under it, on it. And the lid was open. My heart thudded hard. I stepped closer. Inside, everything was arranged differently than before. The dress folded neatly, the tights placed beneath it, the bow clips set on top. And something new rested beside them, a small red ribbon, slightly curled, soft and lightweight. Along with it, a new note. for the feeling you're ready to face. I swallowed, my throat tight. Whoever was leaving these gifts wasn't doing it randomly. They weren't guessing. They were following me, my fear, my confusion, my curiosity, my hope. They knew exactly when to give the next piece. And somehow, every piece felt right. Felt like a step I was ready to take even if I didn't understand why. I picked up the ribbon, holding it between my fingers. It felt delicate, like something meant for careful hands. I tied it loosely in my hair, letting the ends trail softly. When I lifted my head to the mirror, something shifted inside me again, deeper this time. Not a spark, a warmth, a quiet certainty. I put on the tights, then the dress, then the bow clips. Every layer felt like shedding something heavy and stepping into something light. When I looked in the mirror, I didn't flinch or hesitate. I didn't question whether I should feel this way. I didn't feel like I was pretending at all. I felt like myself. For the first time, fully and honestly. My reflection stared back with eyes that looked more open than I had ever seen them. Softer cheeks, looser shoulders, a gentler stance. Not a stranger, not a character.
Just me.
The me I had been too scared to see before. The me someone else had guided me toward, piece by piece. I didn't even hear Mira come in. She stood in the doorway, her breath catching softly. I turned, embarrassed for half a second before I saw her expression, this mix of awe and relief and pride. "There you are," she whispered. She had said those words before, but tonight they felt different. The way someone might say them when finding something precious after it had been lost for a long, long time. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. She walked up to me slowly, her eyes shining in the soft glow of my desk lamp. "You look whole," she said. "Like everything finally fits." A small laugh escaped me. Quiet, shaky, real. "It feels like it." Mira touched the ribbon in my hair, adjusting it gently. "Do you know who sent all of this?" I shook my head.
No.
"But it doesn't feel scary anymore." She nodded thoughtfully. "Maybe it wasn't meant to scare you. Maybe it was meant to show you who you could be." "Or who I already was," I said softly. Her smile widened. "Exactly." We sat on the bed, the dress and ribbon moving softly with every breath I took. Mira looked around the room, her eyes lingering on the open box. "Do you want to know who sent them?" she asked carefully. I hesitated. The question filled the room like a held breath. "Maybe," I said finally. "But maybe not yet." "Why not?" I looked at the mirror again. At my reflection. At the softness. The calm. The quiet truth rising gently inside me. "Because right now," I said, "it doesn't matter who sent them. It matters what they helped me see." Mira nodded slowly, her eyes warm. "Then let's celebrate that." We sat together quietly for a little while, listening to the snowfall outside, the world hushed as if it didn't want to interrupt the moment. The room felt warm, glowing softly in the golden light from the lamp. Everything felt gentle, peaceful, full. After Mira left, I stood in front of the mirror one last time. I touched the bow clip, the ribbon,
The dress.
the tights. All of it felt like a story I was writing in real time, one piece at a time. A story I had spent years unknowingly preparing for. A story of becoming. That night, as I lay in bed, still wearing the ribbon in my hair, I didn't feel scared of anything. Not the changes. Not the questions. Not the future. The world outside was covered in snow, quiet and bright, and it felt like it was reflecting what I felt inside.
Soft.
Open.
New.
I drifted to sleep imagining a small red bow drifting down from the sky, landing lightly on my shoulder, as if crowning me with the simplest, gentlest truth. From boy to bow, I had found something real. Something mine. Something that had been waiting quietly for me to see it. And now that I had, there was no going back, only forward, into whatever came next, wrapped in warmth, softness, and the quiet courage of becoming who I truly was.
The end.